I just think pharmaceuticals disputes are also interesting because of the effect that it actually has on like humanity.
Welcome back to myArbitration. Today we're in Vienna and we're meeting with Sherlin Tung, my dear friend from Hong Kong. And there she is. Hi! How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for choosing an amazing location.
I love it. It's nice.
Thank you very
for
much.
being here.
Thanks for having me.
How about you? You said you moved back to Hong Kong. Where did you practice before you were practicing in Hong Kong?
I was here in Vienna.
No way!
Yeah, no, I lived in Vienna for 3 years. I worked with an international
That explains
conglomerate.
the German now that I think of it.
Yeah, that also explains the WhatsApp. I was like, oh, I'm going to keep my Vienna number. So I was here for 3 years, working with an international company on solely international disputes. They actually brought me in to deal with cross-border litigation and arbitration. So it was a great experience. But before that, I worked with the ICC in New York. And before New York, I worked with the ICC in Hong Kong. And before
You're
ICC
a
Hong Kong, I
citizen
worked
of
in
the world.
Switzerland. I am. I don't think, I've been pretty much all over the world, which is nice. It's a benefit.
And does this broad exposure help you understand your clients and your cases better?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did it backwards. Most people tend to go first into private practice, and then they start to branch out and they do in-house or whatever. I have to be honest, going into private practice for international arbitration in California, which is where I qualified first, it's quite difficult. It was non-existent at the time, pretty much. So what I did was I kind of took the other look at it. I did my LLM in Stockholm, and then I was offered a role with Pierre Carrère in Switzerland as an arbitrator. So from that, it then becomes a little bit difficult to jump back into private practice, right? And you know it. When you hire associates, you want them to have the private practice experience. So I had to go from an arbitrator to an institution to in-house, and then getting hired by a firm, mainly because of my background. And so now at firms, I get to see what the client really wants. I understand what the client wants, which is nice.
So what was your experience as a tribunal secretary? Do you think it's an important role?
Obviously, as we all know, tribunal secretaries don't make any of the decisions. But you know, as a tribunal secretary, you're reviewing all the submissions, all of the communications. You get to sit in on the tribunal deliberations. That's experience that no one ever can really get. I mean, it's for the U.S. Culture, it's the equivalent of a law clerk in a court. So I think a tribunal secretary experience is probably one of the best things you can do, so long as it's proper tribunal secretary experience.
We met on our webinar about pharma arbitrations. Can I ask you what, in your view, makes pharma arbitration stand out?
Well, right now, it really, really stands out, thank you, COVID. But generally speaking, pharmaceutical arbitrations, at least the ones that I've been involved with, even if it's an allegedly simple contractual dispute over like the sales or manufacture of a drug, it still is quite complex in that you will always be bringing in different technical aspects, and you don't get that in a typical commercial arbitration. These pharmaceutical disputes that I've dealt with are very reliant on expert advice, right? So whether it's the expert statements on the drug itself or an expert statement on quantum. In normal commercial arbitrations, you do see quantum very often, but what I've seen in pharmaceutical disputes is it's a different type of quantum calculation. And it's tricky, it's complicated. For cases like this, I can understand why there may be tribunal secretaries, or there should be tribunal secretaries. And I just think pharmaceuticals disputes are also interesting because of the effect that it actually has on like humanity. It almost always, it deals with a drug that is supposed to help someone. And there's literally this holdup because now it's in a dispute. My last case really impacted me because one party basically was arguing this dispute is preventing people from getting cured. So I was very glad that I was not the tribunal on that one, because I could just imagine like, oh, okay, you better hurry up with your arbitral award.
So Sherlin, who will you be speaking with in Hong Kong? And I'm excited to hear.
So the Secretary of Justice, Teresa Cheng, has agreed to speak in relation to arbitration in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
The SJ used to be an independent arbitrator. She's also a barrister.
Yeah.
So prior to actually being appointed to the Secretary of Justice for Hong Kong, she had a number of active cases. She was probably one of the leading female and independent arbitrators worldwide. There's a lot of people that are interested, almost everybody is interested in speaking about arbitration in Hong Kong, mainly because of everything that's been developing. Everybody wants to kind of show the world that Hong Kong remains this ideal place to resolve disputes.
But it's a huge hub for arbitration.
It is. I mean, it's also interesting because you know that Queen Mary survey that comes out every couple of years, and this year Hong Kong made third place, whereas Singapore was number one.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of impact in the world, which we in Hong Kong find quite interesting because Hong Kong has actually never been first.
Yeah.
But if you see the surveys over the last decade, Hong Kong keeps moving up, including this last year. So the HKISC and everyone in the Hong Kong community was quite proud because Hong Kong still kind of increased its percentage in ideal place of arbitration.
In this international arbitration hub, Hong Kong, what's it like in terms of diversity? Do you have a lot of women or people of different backgrounds working there?
So for international arbitration in Hong Kong, I have to be honest, I think diversity is something that we prioritize, but it's something that every firm is still working towards. Up until about maybe 3 years ago, I would say the main leading partners in arbitration were mostly white males. They were all great. You know, we've got a great community and the professionals are very good at what they do. But I do recall, so for example, when I moved back to Hong Kong, my clients are mainly based in China, Taiwan, Asia, and they always had the comment of, oh, why do you always come with, you know, a white male partner? Because at the time I was just a senior associate. And also the firms there, UK firms, American firms, German firms, it's always kind of, you know, the white male population.
So we brought our European lack of diversity onto Hong Kong.
Exactly, and not only European, right? Also American. But it's gotten a lot better in the last few years. You see now a lot more females, diverse females, getting promoted in the industry. They're taking bigger roles in all of the organizations. So the diversity is getting there. It just takes a bit of time.
So Sherlin,
Yes,
last
ma'am.
question:
Okay.
What is the future of arbitration?
I will say this. What everyone keeps saying is that we will have a new norm. Like hybrid will be the new norm, less traveling, there's going to be more online resolution of disputes. I have to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I actually think once things settle down again, we will be back to what the old norm was with added benefits, right? With the fact that, okay, if you can't attend, we have these technological abilities to bring you in. But I feel like in-person events, in-person hearings are just so much better.
Or in-person meetings.
In-person
I'm
meetings,
so happy
right?
to see you.
Exactly.